an army rising up. There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up, yeah, to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain.
Now to the mysterious death of a man in Jasper.
Federal authorities have just taken over this investigation of Alfred Wright's death.
That is because his family says state and local authorities are sweeping it under the rug.
How did searchers miss Alfred Wright's body, even though it was found just up the road from where he vanished?
Wright's family reported him missing November 7th after they say his truck broke down near Hemp Hill. The Sabine County Sheriff's Office searched along with other agencies. Investigators found pieces of his clothing and personal belongings, but they stopped looking after a few days. Family and friends continued the search and found Wright's body November 25th, not far from where he was last seen.
And Pastor Lewis began to holler, everybody come to me, come to me. And I knew the sound in his voice that it was not good. It was not good.
There's an army rising up. There's an army rising up, yeah, to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain.
Alfred was the baby for a long time. I am actually the oldest. And, you know, in our culture, the African American culture, you know, whenever you're the oldest child, you're kind of like a parent as well. They train you way from the beginning, look out for your little sister, your little brother. Well, Alfie, we had to really always look out for him because he was so hyperactive. I think all of us have ADHD. So on in his life, he was definitely a mama's boy, but he loved to hang out with my father. They had a very special bond. My father was a hunter. He even took me. I was daddy's girl. So I would even go hunting with him. But at the age of 2 and 3, sometimes my father would just take Alfie by himself for him and Dad to have their own special time and bonding time. Through middle school and high school, you know, he was always very smart. Straight A student. Like I said, anything he did, he always tried to put his best foot forward. And I remember one day he came home and he was crying. And Mom was like, "What is wrong with you?" He was crying because he got 89. He missed out from getting straight A's. So Mom, she was like, "Okay, Alfie, it's okay. We're just going to work harder." And Alfie also was a very compassionate, loving person. If he saw someone in need, he would always try to help fulfill that need. One day the door was messed up, you know, the door, and he fixed it before he left, you know, but he was there to do physical therapy, but he saw another need. That just shows you how our parents raised us. Also, Alfred, he was a loving husband, loving father. Most people, you know, with this story, they don't understand that my parents, my mother and father, both, they have been the advocates in their community. That's why Alfie had over 1,000 people at his funeral, and a lot of those were young people that my parents raised. My parents have always been the pillar of that community. My parents, they have always been there to help so many people, and that's why I guess so many people are hurt and angry and frustrated with what have taken place, you know, for this to happen to our family after we've given so much to so many people in that community. But more so back to Alfie. Alfie was always, even though he was an outgoing person in public, he was really an introvert. He'd come home, you know, he'd play with his children. He loved country and western movies. That's what he loved to watch, you know. He loved to listen to gospel music, you know. He wasn't an ordained minister. Now I'm an ordained minister. But my brother, to me, he was, we call it a bootleg preacher. You know, he don't have the paper, but he was one of the ones I would call and bounce different sermons out of, and he would love to give his theology and philosophies. And actually, the very last conversation I had with him before his demise, I called him, and I was just listening on the internet to a very popular song. Actually, the young lady, Tasha Cobbs, just got a Grammy Award off of it. And I was listening, and I was just so moved by the song. So in that time, the Lord had put Alfie on my heart, and I called him, and I said, bro, hey, I just want to pray for you, pray with you. I said, this song has really touched my heart, and you just popped in my spirit. And he's like, okay, well, let's pray, you know, and that's him. So not knowing just a few weeks later this would happen to him, you know, and we prayed, and I let him listen to the song, and he was praising God, and he said, Anelia, he said, I really appreciate this. He said, you know, I've been going through some things, and you just don't know how this has blessed me, you know. But we would do that all the time, you know. Sometimes he would just call me and say, hey, I just want to have prayer with you, and he not knowing, you know, I'm just stressed because of grad school, you know, but that was the connection we had.
His head was in this area.
Okay.
And his feet was back here. He was neatly laid.
Right.
He was neatly laid.
Wearing only boxer shorts, his shoes, and a single sock with his cell phone tucked inside. It wasn't just the position, but the condition of the body that also seemed strange.
This is the first thing I noticed, how smooth his forearms and his back, this is smooth, no scratches at all.
But he was missing an ear, 2 front teeth, and his throat appeared cut.
An initial official autopsy ordered by the county attributed the death to lethal amounts of meth, cocaine, and amphetamines found in his system. But the family sent the remains to Houston for a second autopsy, which found the body was missing an ear, the tongue, and had a throat that appeared to have been slashed.
We found the body. Sheriff had never asked us any questions. Texas Rangers hadn't asked us any questions. We found the body.
They have questioned people that don't even have anything to do with my brother, and they have yet to still question my family. They have not questioned the man and my father who found my brother's body. They still have not taken fingerprints from my brother's truck where he went missing. They refuse to allow anyone to block off the trail that led to my brother's body. It's like they wanted someone to mess up any evidence that could have been found.
The search was made only in one direction, away from his body.
What we want is justice for my son. We want to find the culprits that murdered my son. I really believe that this was a hate crime.
I can say I do understand why he have been disrespected and the law enforcement still haven't did anything. I can understand that because it is a racist issue. A lot of people don't want to call the statement, they say race card, but it is what it is. Even though I want to hug him again or hear his voice, you know, I have to go back and just focus on the memories of the last voice I heard of us praising God together. That's what I kind of resort back to. My relationship with God, I feel, has strengthened. And I know it seemed kind of hard, you know, because you just like, I don't want to. There was that point where I'm like, you know, God, I'm just so angry. You could have, you know, allowed something else to happen. You could have, you know, allowed his truck not to break down that day. You could have allowed him never to even go into that area, and we did not know the dangers there, you know. Racial tension has always been in that area. And when you are a minority, you learn to deal with it. It's sad when I remember my mother sitting my African American brothers down and telling them, having that talk at a certain time of night, I never want you to be by yourself. Always travel in groups. This is in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then you look at my father, who was the first African American to integrate into the Mississippi school district. And he said, when he went to bed at night, all he could hear was the N-word, because that's what he got called all day. I don't know if you saw the movie Mississippi Burning, but the church they burned down in that movie, that was my grandfather's church. You know, this is the type of information and history that my family has passed down to us to be protective and be aware of what is, and especially in the South. I am anticipating to see just what God is going to do out of this, because right now, I just don't know. I don't know. Some days I don't know how to deal with the pain of it all. I feel it's not fair. He was a man of integrity. He was a man of purpose. He loved the Lord. He loved his family. And I feel all of us have skeletons. All of us have a past. Is this going to help save another African American young man or a minority in that area? Will this allow those evil ones to think before they try to do something like this ever again? Will this dissipate some of the racism and some of the injustice in the police departments across the country? You know, will now the government or the Justice Department come in now and clean house? Really, I've been the one that has initiated most of the protests. I've initiated about 5 or 6 protests there. And every event that I've put on, or we've had over between 300 to 500 people show up. Out of that, maybe 10 Caucasians show up every event. We have the great support of the African American, but to me, a community that's really together, at least I would feel that even if one of my white sisters or brothers or Hispanic sisters or brothers went through something like this, I will be there to support. My whole entire family will be their support. Yeah, it's very sad, and but thinking of some positive that has come out of it so far is that I really thank God that my father stayed with my brother's body, because I feel that we would not be where we are in the case right now if he wouldn't have guarded my brother's body.
And taken the photographs also.
And taken the photographs. They didn't allow us to check barns that was on a land adjacent to the land where we found his body. Refused to allow my family to check a barn when we have a missing person. All of these are red flags. At the store, there were cameras there. And we have proof with the date on it, where they had cameras out there, outside the store where he went missing, and 5 or 6 days later we come out there, they're gone. What are you all hiding? Why are you yet covering up this case?
How old are Alfred's kids?
Casey and the baby is 2, Kingston is 4, and Cameron just made 9. Yes.
Young. They're young.
And they love their dad. He was such a great father. Those boys was his life.
Yeah.
And Cameron, the oldest, of course, he understands a little bit more. And, it just hurts me because, I called to check on him, and I asked, how he was doing. He's been in intense counseling. Because another reason my brother moved back, because he wanted to be there with his son. Now, Cameron that's the child he had in college.
Right.
And I know all the difficulties and the hardship, because Alfie would call and talk to me about how much he missed his son and how he wanted to move back closer so he could spend time, because he did not want his son to grow up without his father. Being in Memphis, you couldn't see him every other week. And for him to get back there only a year and a half, and then someone take him away. Right. I just feel like he took him away from that opportunity for his son, you know, to be there with him. And I called his mom to see how he was doing, and she was just telling me how he was holding up his father's obituary program, and he had held it to his heart, and he was crying, and he said, my dad said he would never leave me, you know. And then his mom said, you're right. And your dad, it wasn't his choice to leave. Someone took that from him. And we just got to pray. Pray for them. Right. You know, so it's heart-wrenching because he was a great guy. He was an asset to his community, asset to his family. And for this to happen, it's just unfortunate, you know. A lot of people are being misled by a lot of information that has been placed out in the different news mediums, but we want to be clear. Yes, the Justice Department is aware of my brother's case, but as of now, they have not come in to assist us from Washington, D.C. There have been only locals from the Beaumont, from Austin, from Lufkin, Texas, and also from the Sabine area and Jasper County that is still involved with this case. No one has the right to take another person's life. No one. And I just pray that anyone that has any courage, if you just have an ounce of courage, if you know anything, please come forward and allow whoever did this detestable thing to my brother to pay for what they did.
There's an